Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. A'udhu Billah Shaitan ar-Rajim. May God protect us from the cursed one and unnecessary ignorance. Rabbi Ighfirli, my Lord, forgive me for all the sins that I am conscious and unconscious of. Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. May God guide us to the direct path. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the lecture officially. I'm going to try my best to talk about a topic which I think is very interesting, but I don't know about others. To me, it's one of the coolest things a human being can talk about, really. um, to start off, I would like to say that I have thought about the idea of genius. I'm going to start, I've thought about what's the most genius thing a human being can do, okay? And I'm going to start off by reading for you what a genius means. Okay. So a genius is a noun. It means exceptional intellectual or creative power or other natural ability. A person who is exceptionally intelligent or creative, either generally or in some particular respect. A person regarded as exerting a powerful influence over another for good or evil. Genie, Genii, in some mythologies, it's guardian spirit associated with a person, place, or institution. Okay, so what's messed up is that okay, anyways, the fourth definition, the prevalent character or spirit of something as such as nation or age. So an example would be Boucher's paintings did not suit the austere genius of neoclassicism. Now check this out. When we look at the origin, it comes from late Middle English, from Latin, which means attendant spirit present from one's birth, innate ability or inclination. From the root of geniere, beget. I'm not saying the word beget, it just says beget. The original sense is spirit attendant on a person, gave rise to a sense of a person's character. Gave rise to a person's character disposition, late 16th century, which led to a sense a person's natural ability, and finally exceptional natural ability in mid 1700. So that means the further you go back in history, the idea of genius was like a spirit attendant. Okay, now this is some concept that in some cultures it might be bizarre, but for example in Islam, okay, I forget the exact terms for it, but you are assigned two beings to you, like an angel, and I believe the term was called qarin. Okay, and which means that you have like these two forces that kind of motivate your activity. Okay, so pretty much it's the idea that, what does it say? It says that in the So before the late 16th century, it was the idea that there was a spirit helping someone be something. Okay. And then after the 16th century, the idea came to that no, it's a person's natural ability. Okay. So that's interesting to know. But let me tell you why I'm considering it. Okay. Regardless of where the word comes from, uh, I'm someone who constantly, I have an OCD about this, which is I am obsessively and compulsively, okay, just, you know, motivated by, I guess the disorder of humanity. There's something in me that is like, okay, you're a member of a species. And then the question comes, what are you doing, like myself? And then the question comes, what is my species doing? And we cannot ignore that we've been positioned in a situation where we have to wonder about, in some sense, the motivation of intelligence on Earth. And pretty much, the title of this lecture, this whole lecture is me pretty much thinking, what's the most genius thing a genius can do? Okay. Which is the same title as this episode. I could have named it what is the most genius thing a genius can do, and it would be the same lecture. Okay. Why? Because it's like the same idea. If you just replace the word genius with advanced, it's like the question is, what is the most advanced thing that an advanced being does? And the answer is that an advanced being wants to know that it is advanced, but it cannot know itself how advanced it truly is if the world and the others are not advanced. So, my understanding is that human beings start off in reality and then they are exposed to reality, and then how they respond to reality either lifts them up in, the solar rank, or it brings them down. But ultimately, it's like this notion of what would the smartest person on the planet do? Okay. And the smartest person on the planet has two options. Okay. Either being rogue, okay, or in some sense, which is not the smartest thing. The smartest thing is, I'll give you an example. It's like you have an army and there's one soldier in the army who's an exceptional warrior. Okay. And the general sees this one warrior who's exceptional and all the others are not. So what does the general do? The general's like, all warriors need to be exceptional. Okay. So what that means is that warrior who had better skills than the others starts updating the others. Now, here's the reality of life, okay, that they don't tell you. Anybody you see, I don't believe in the idea of teachers and students. I think that's old world thinking. But let's say any human being you have ever seen be a teacher, you're seeing someone who has reached the peak of their understanding, and the only thing left is to make others go further. Okay. So it's like the notion of how do you value life? Okay. And if you have a certain value for yourself, is this value applicable to others or not? You know, I've come to understand that this world, or at least how human civilization is advancing, it is ushering us to a society that we value skill greater than we value income. Do you know what I mean? That means the idea of income is very interesting. It's the notion of what is incoming. For me, this might sound bizarre, but I mean, honestly, let me say this first before I say my thoughts. Here, there was this interview done by Muhammad Ali, and I don't remember his exact words, but he said something in the lines of, being a good person is the rent we pay to exist in this intelligent event. And I don't think it's just being a good person. It's, for me, the roar of the past. I have a strange ability, okay? And I think we all do, but for some reason, this ability is activated for me. And if somebody says, Mr. Within, where does your ability come from? I say, I will tell you, it comes from how behind my eyes I am being stared down by all those being humans that have lived in the past and all those human beings that will be born in the future. And it's like, those who have passed away and those who are the unborn are staring at me. I can feel it. I can feel the past judging me like, hey, what are you doing? And the future being like, hey, what are you doing? And I look at the present and I see the obliviousness of my species to their own greatness. And it doesn't break my heart because my heart cannot break, because my heart doesn't just belong to me. I came to this conclusion that the most advanced and genius thing to do is to advance the system. But I came to this realization that there's a system admin, and it's not up to one man to be like, yo, I can see an advanced civilization. Why aren't we all building it? Let's all build it. It's not up to one man. There is something that moves everyone before they move themselves, in the sense of not just that the world is moving you, but what is moving the world behind it. That means if you had become the world, still things were moving in an unknown way. It's as if to become the world is not enough. I do acknowledge that there are inner sciences and there are outer sciences. I do acknowledge that there are certain methods that apply to one's mind and methods apply to just one's body. But there's this feeling in me that if it's as if it's like my future self is laughing at me and I don't like it. But and I don't understand why it's laughing, but it's laughing at me. It's laughing at all that I could have done that I didn't. I try to live my life as if, what if there is no other life? Excuse me. What if there is no other worldly life? What if I'm a video game character in this massive multiplayer online game? And just like how you have a 2D, let's say, computer game, and you're sitting at the table, and the computer game is 2D, made of pixels, and there's a character in there in a world that you can move, but in some sense, you are not the pixelated character. And humanity is reaching that point where we're beginning to see, wait a minute, what if every day we wake up, it's like we're logging back into reality? And what reality is a game, and this game has been designed for a specific reason. There are no games without purpose. Purpose is there in the nature of design in a designed place, and we cannot ignore it. So you understand, I have no choice. By visions of the advanced civilizations to come. I don't want to say I am haunted, I am greeted by them. Behind my eyes, in front of my eyes, yes, I'm a biological being. If you come and ask me, who are you? I will tell you my name, my nationality, my story. I will even tell you the feelings I have now, which is choose which thoughts to be in front of you. But on some level, deep down, I know that you cannot contain a verb in a noun. It is impossible. It is impossible to give people a snapshot photo of meaning in a changing world where the meaning is alive. It's alive. The system is alive. The system is not just watching static existence. It is dynamic. We are actors in a film we did not direct, yet we can direct how we act in it, at least. You see, the question comes, when is it enough to be anything at all? You know, when I was younger, I was drawn to external power. That was like cool. Strong people were cool. But then something changed in me. There was a difference between like Superman and the idea of kings of old. And it was a matter of responsibility. That greatness arises when there is an awareness to a scenario intelligence can fill out. Anyways, I've prepared something to read for you here. Okay. Pretty much, I asked ChatGPT what is the fastest way to turn all humans into geniuses in 2025. I researched this and forward. Give me your most advanced and thorough answer. ChatGPT said, this is rapidly, excuse me. Sorry, I'll read it again. This is the correct, this is the answer because I asked it to make it complete. So, anyways, AI says how to turn humanity into genius. To make everyone a genius fast, we don't need just more information. We need a complete upgrade to how humans think, feel, and learn. Imagine turning the world into one big connected brain where each person is growing rapidly every day. Here are the 10 keys to do it. AI says first strategy smart learning for every mind. Everyone gets a personal AI teacher that knows exactly how they learn best. It trains their brain with logic, creativity, memory, and problem solving, like a gym, but for your mind. In quotations, think AI says, think of it like giving every child in the world a private Einstein. The second approach is mind mirrors, the second key. We give people tools to see how their mind works, like a mirror for your thoughts. You can watch your emotions, distractions, and thinking habits in real time and learn to sharpen them. In quotations, it's like being able to see your own brain and train it like a muscle. The third key, power language training. We upgrade how people use language because smarter words mean smarter thoughts. Kids learn logic, metaphors, and even basic code alongside regular speech. In quotations, the sharper your words, the sharper your world. Guys, let me, okay, whatever. We go to Global Brain Network. We live in everyone's ideas together through a platform that shares breakthroughs instantly across the world. If one person figures out something genius in India, kids in Canada and Ghana learn it the same day. In quotations, the world becomes a giant brain. Everyone is a neuron. We go to the fifth key inner world education. We teach emotional mastery, self awareness, and spiritual intelligence. As seriously as math or science, people learn how to handle fear, focus deeply, and understand their purpose. You're not just taught what to think, but how to feel and why you exist. In quotation, AI mentors. Everyone gets an AI companion who challenges your thoughts, keeps you focused, and inspires your curiosity, like having your own Yoda or Socrates in your pocket. In quotations, it doesn't just answer your questions, it makes you ask better ones. Seven, brain upgrades. I'm against this. Optional. With safety and ethics, we offer tools like brain simulators or focus boosters to help people learn faster and remember better without harming the natural mind. In quotations, not every genius is born, but now everyone can become one. What that means is, guys, a genius is a human being that has been privileged by the sequences of experiences it has gone through life to be able to activate an awareness to reality that others do not have. This activation can happen for anyone. You might right now be comparing your intelligence to others. That's not the way to go. There's only two people you need to compare your intelligence to, always. Okay? Technically three, but let's say two people you need to convince, not convince, you need to, like, there's only two people you're allowed to be jealous of. Okay. You know, or let me say two people you need to compare yourself to. One is your past self, and one is your future self. And the cool thing is, when you compare yourself to your past self, it's like you see how far you've come. When you compare yourself to your future self, you see how far you need to go. And this is where it's important that, because you don't know anyone else, because you don't have their eyes, you're truly left with comparing yourself to yourself. But to which self? That means I have seen so many versions to myself in my inner mind. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, look at how complicated a man's mind is. For example, in the outer realms, every time I've seen, something about a woman who's like attractive or appealing or is like calling me to it, you know what I mean? Right? It's like, how do I say it? I've seen in my mind, in accordance to all the different situations, all the different selves I could be. I haven't seen all of them, but I have seen variations to my own self. I have wondered, how would I be living 400 years from now? How would the species be conducting itself 600 years from now? How would the experience of what, let's say your invisible pet, on a leash, you know, your invisible cat on a leash, in the future in the park with, like, a cyber mustache, you know what I mean? Like, a technological mustache. Like, how does it, like, imagine you're walking your pet in a park and you suddenly be like, wait a minute, why are all the skyscrapers in the distance getting shorter? And you realize you're one of the first people walking in a park that is of the first sky city lifting up into the air, as a testament to mankind's great achievement of not conquering two-dimensional land, but in some sense building our kingdoms in the clouds, like how the legends of old had seen it before. Yeah. You see, in the same way there will be castles in the sky, humanity will commercialize, will in some sense live in the sky. You understand? But there are many phases, many things that we must go through. Man must acknowledge his limitations to realize what he must surpass, share them with the species, and as we surpass it together, we remember ourselves as developers of a world that was better than the one we were in. You see? Anyways, I'm going to keep reading. Eighth key, truth as virtue, as a virtue. We teach a new kind of moral code. Care about truth. Be willing to change your mind. Learn how to investigate ideas deeply and clearly. We reward people for curiosity, not loud opinions. In the future, wisdom becomes the new status symbol. The ninth key, genius guilds. We create real life and digital communities where people of all ages learn together, build projects, and go through levels of mastery, like Jedi training meets real education. Every city gets a place where minds evolve. 10th, one species, one mission. We stop seeing ourselves as just citizens of countries and start seeing ourselves as minds in one giant learning species evolving together. Implications, you're not just a person, you're a neuron in the brain of humanity. Exactly. Exactly. That's where we're going, guys. Enjoy how you're just being a person to yourself. The future, will not have the luxury of being lost in its own world. It will understand the great opportunity, the great task that like media might have conditioned you to think of a superhero or a champion or a legend, in a certain way. But I will tell you, you do not understand. To be a champion of reality, when reality's intensity calls upon you, it begins by stepping forth. To be honest, the ultimate truth, a sort of ultimate truth to reality, is that whatever happens in this life, it's going forward, and it's up to you to choose how to go forward with it. If you choose not to go forward with a changing world, you, in some sense, identify more as, do you understand? Pretty much, we either live faster than the world or slower than the world. If you live slow, world, the world is moving you. If you will live faster than the world, you're moving the world. But there are moments where you begin to see that the world has been programmed, as if it is in accordance to another administrative system. That means I do appreciate how I am human. I do appreciate how my perception gives me access to known and unknown variables. And I do appreciate how my intelligence has storified humanity only through the known variables. But I cannot ignore the unknown. I cannot ignore the fact that our species is in an ideological sphere that it has self-simulated to ignore the actuality of a reality that can be different than human values. The fearless humanity will not fear truth because truth is in some sense like the hammer and also the anvil, and also the hands, slamming the sword that we are. And for me, in the same way a sword has a purpose, a shield has a purpose, armor has a purpose. I look at the human design and I ask myself, why am I armored, through biological existence, cellular and atomic existence? I have an armor made of atom and cells, and at the same time, I have a shield, which is my ability to move in reality. And I have, in some sense, excuse me, I have a sword, which is my ability to shield and, in some sense, engage reality. And I have a shield, which is my ability to observe. Not only can I be a participant in the worlds that I perceive consciously, but I can, in some sense, be the ultimate defender of my awareness from any ego that forms in those worlds. Ladies and gentlemen, the ancients said that if your ego becomes your master and you become enslaved by your ego, like there's a saying. They say the ego is a lousy master, but the ego is a great servant. Like the ancient wise men said this, but they never said why the ego is a great servant, and they didn't said who the ego is a servant of. Now, this depends on the sophistication of you as a being. How sophisticated are you? Your sophistication as a being means that what is your ego serving? That means, imagine we say the statement that your ego is a servant is true. The question comes, what is your ego? What is the character in the story idea of you in every moment you simulate serving? What is it serving? What is it a soldier of, and what is commanding it? And guess what? Ancients called it soul, but what's going on is that in the same way you have, I don't know, you have a soldier, a lieutenant, and a general. Okay, a soldier, a commanding officer, and let's say a general. Okay, in the same way, your body is a soldier in the front lines of manifestation. Your mind is a commanding officer guiding the soldier, but your soul, your awareness to how objects and how subjects motivate objects to move, how subjective models, are projected ahead of the objective model for it to follow. Your soul is the awareness that holds it all. Your mind is the ego code, the character in the story. It's kind of like your body is smarter than the world. Your mind is smart. Excuse me, let me say it this way. Your mind is smarter than your body. Subjects are more intelligent phenomena, or noumenon than objective phenomena. Guys, I write so much on Windows. Ultimately, every human being contains the world in a situation and they are responding to it. And the situation I have contained this world in is very different than the global story we're being given. The global story we're given is we're human beings on a rock in the middle of nowhere and we're kind of giving everything meaning. And we're just aligning our abstract subjectivism to objective reality and we're calling it science. What actually is going on is you're not seeing a creature just influenced by physical information. The proof that you're not just a physical entity is how you get influenced by abstraction. If abstraction can influence an entity and the abstraction is different than the physical influence, then the entity can get influenced by that which is not real. You understand? I'm saying that you are a combination of mind and body. But if we were to consider that you're a body, you should not be experiencing anything of mind. But because you're experiencing the event of mind, like let me tell, like I'll give you proof that you're not a physical being. Okay, this is my proof. If we are saying you need to see it to believe it, and if we are saying that to see something, light needs to enter your eyes, that means if I tell you to close your eyes and remember, like, what you were like, remember what you were dressed in like 2 days ago, how you dressed 2 days ago, or what you ate 2 days ago, your eyes are closed, but you can see the memory. So you can see while your eyes are closed. There is no light entering your eyes, yet you are seeing. This is proof you are not just a physical entity. And they are making you think you're a physical entity that only needs a physical strategy. Like what an ingenious way to deceive the transcendental general. It's as if, like, in Sun Tzu Art of War, they say if two generals are fighting, one general has to just make the other general have a disconnection with his army. That means if he cannot communicate his orders to the army and the armies can't follow the orders, that general has lost before even considering victory. Dear humanity, you have become gullible because you think that perception is reality. The awareness to perception is also real. That means having a box on your head. Yes, what you see inside the box is real, but also the awareness that there's a box on your head is also real. I see it actually that we're inside a system, an existential system, an objective existential system that somehow we can't explain thoroughly yet, but we are subjectively experiencing. So it's not like I'm just looking at I'm a self in a world. I'm a moving self in a moving world, and this intelligence that I am, this biochemical system, is establishing a relationship with past images of itself and current image of reality. I'm pretty much saying that we have an ability to probabilize and visualize the future, and we have an ability to remember the past, and that is not an ability that just an object has. So the whole point of it is the reason it doesn't reality doesn't make sense is because they're treating existence as if it was here first. But what if existence is a effect? That means you can in some sense shatter all scientific findings by the simple question: are you treating the cause as an effect, or is it the final cause? Scientists are, you know what they're realizing? Like philosophers saw this way before the scientists did, but the scientists never asked their opinion. Do you know what that means? That means the scientific community was so foolish by, in some sense, just listening to the analytical philosophers. It was devastating. You don't understand what they did. They blocked the creativity of the educational system. They slowed things down to just existential movement. And at the same time, they gave you a technological media. Do you know what they're doing? They've made the educational system explaining the past to the present, but they haven't understood that the present is actually getting influenced by, it's like an encyclopedia is hunting it. It's like an ever growing encyclopedia, is interacting with the minds of youth. We are in an era of epistemic entropy. And it's kind of funny because there's two ways of seeing this. And of course, you might be like Mr. Within, what is epistemic entropy? And I will tell you, it is the inability of beings to be able to tell what is really being and what is really not. You see, they are making you think that you have to choose reality. You have to say either it's objective materialism or it's subjective idealism, right? They're making you kind of choose between these two. What you don't realize is you are an awareness to both. You are neither a subject because you've been aware of yourself as different subjects, and you're neither an object because you don't have the same body as you had years ago. You are an awareness. Now, this awareness, because I am Muslim, I treat it as the soul. Because I am also Muslim, God says that the soul is the secret of God. Like a character in a video game, you're not there to figure out the code that was used to write the video game. You're there to play the video game. We human beings are in this system to play in this system, to play the game. But we need to consider that there are levels to this system, there are levels to this game, and that we are inside a simulation. You understand? It's kind of like this. It's like you're inside a simulation and you are a user in the simulation, a member in the simulation, but you are not a moderator. Now, there are moderators in this system. The moderators are also created beings, but they are also created with authority over the simulation. Okay? So keep in mind, this world has members, users. This system has members, users. It has mods who are inside the system, who all have control over the system. And it has a system admin that is outside the system. Do you know what that means? That means the creator of the world was in a position before the world existed. So whatever we're using in the world to define the creator is a flaw. And this was a discovery, not a discovery. This was revelation given to the prophets of mankind, peace be upon them all, but specifically starting from Abraham. That means if you ask Muslims, what is the great work of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he to me is one of the most is technically the most advanced human because what he experienced. You understand that you don't understand the power of pointing to truth. There's a power in it. And Prophet Abraham went to his father. I want you to imagine right now, you go to your father, okay? And imagine Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, he was such a mighty soul that he went to his own father. It gives me goosebumps to even think about the life Prophet Abraham lived. But he went to his father and he said, Father, why are you worshiping these idols? Stop worshiping these idols, Dad. And his father looked at him, looked at Abraham, and said, Son, what did you say? Have you no honor? Have you no pride? Your forefathers were worshiping these statues, and I'm honoring your forefathers by worshiping these statues. It was in that moment where Abraham truly, that means there's the idea of a prophet, but then there is the idea of strength to look at the past and say, what if our forefathers were wrong? What if truth is not an object? What if truth is not worldly? And it was as if an explosion occurred that some human beings began to realize that if you're in a simulation, worshiping anything in the simulation is still a simulated act. Do you understand? If you treat life as a simulation, okay, the religions make sense, all of them, but they doesn't mean all of them have the awareness. Just like to me, the new generations have an awareness, the past generations don't. You know, this is not a reason, the only reason why I'm a Muslim, but to me, it was as if what Prophet Muhammad did was an answer to Abraham's prayer, Prophet Abraham's prayer. Peace be upon them all. It's because I am an imperfect person, I can sense what incredible feats they achieve. They pretty much reach the ultimate conclusion that if you're in a box, what's in the box cannot be that which is outside of the box. What that means is what Schrodinger ultimately realized was that if you put a cat in a box and you shoot the box, even though the probability of there being a cat that's alive and a cat that's dead, okay, but it's that Schrodinger was not the box, was not in the box. Schrodinger did not shoot himself. In the same sense, the Holy Quran tells us that anything wrong that happens is man's doing. You cannot blame God in the same way. Schrodinger cannot. The cat is not Schrodinger. The cat in the box is not Schrodinger. Okay, the probabilities to reality are not you, yet you have access to them. So I shifted gears in the same way I think Abraham went to his father and in some sense said, why are you worshiping these idols? Truth is beyond containment. It is beyond your own construction. Whether man needs revelation, revelation is just a blessing. Whether it's necessary or it's additional. Same way, I, as a human being right now, I'm not claiming to be anything close to these mighty men, these mighty souls. Direct communication with them. Okay, I'm not someone who God has a direct communication with me. I'm someone who, when I pray, I do feel I am in the attention of the higher power, as we all are. I feel the divine surveillance state, and immediately my ego breaks down in shame. It's like the first time I prayed, it was only I truly consciously, bowed to a higher power, was because I reached a point and I realized the flaw in my ego. I realized the limitation of my body is death. My body fears death, whatever people say. And my mind fears infinity. Why? Because when you are given an ability to have infinite viewpoints, it's like the mind doesn't know what to choose out of infinity. It needs higher power. And that's when I was like, okay, so my body is afraid of death, but because it knows that it's going to be defeated by death, because it knows it will end, it's subconsciously identifying death as the ultimate and it's destroying itself. Freaky, like I've had some intense moments in this. There was a moment where I realized, am I subconsciously killing myself? And then I realized, has my mind given up when it has come to infinity? So it was like the chaos of the outer realms. My body was noticing chaos in the outer realms, and my mind noticing chaos in the inner realms. And I don't want to say because it's not in my nature. You understand? I've logged into this world 12,000 times. Let me tell you exactly. So I was born on December 17, 91 in Tehran, 9 a.m. I'm asking AI how many days have I been alive? And the result is I have been alive 12,856 days. Okay, I don't know. Once I had asked the question, but I hadn't said the time. So I've lived actually close to like 3,000 days. I've logged into this world, and I have. There are truths about yourself you cannot avoid, and my nature has revealed itself. And that means there was a moment where I was like, why am I not evil? Why? Why am I not fascinated by chaos? Why am I not like power hungry? Why am I not like why isn't like becoming someone who can control everything a desire? And I realize this because on some level I know that I'm not the higher power. None of us are. The point is not to be powerful in a simulation. The point is to simply find the truth. So for those who truth is more important than power, you are the ones who will be given actual power. But for those, power is more important than truth. They compromise, they in some sense sell aspects of their truth. All right, let me say, to be in a world of geniuses is another way of saying right now in 2025, let's say there's a ratio, right? Right now in 2025, let's say the species, 8 billion human beings have like, I don't know, 55% awareness to what's going on, to their blind spots. Okay, let's say 60% awareness to their blind spots. In a genius civilization, it's another implication, or in an advanced civilization, it doesn't mean that externally stuff is advanced. It means we have an advanced perception, which means our value system is way more sophisticated than the value system we're using now to guide our lives. If somebody asks me who is a genius, I'll be like, a genius is someone who finds the most important thing. I'll give you an example. There was a time I was looking for my phone and everybody was helping me find it, right? And then somebody found my phone and I just looked at him and I'm like, you're a genius, you know? And it was as if the genius was the introduction of the solution. So a world of geniuses would be a world where the solutions are way more then the problems, because the questions we have about our questions are way more than are the answers we satisfy ourselves. Do you understand? That means why was, for example, Einstein a genius? Because the dude explained why the sky is blue. Because the dude explained the macro reality. Because the dude at some point wrote two essays that would revolutionize the history of how we understand the natural forces. Little did Einstein know that all the sci-fi writers he would be inspiring, who would write about, going as the faster you get to the speed of light, the slower reality becomes, the slower time moves. It's like another way of saying if I fast forward a film faster and faster, it'll be less visible and less able to stabilize in the abstraction of time. You don't understand. It's like we open our eyes, we're seeing this massive event, and we're trying to explain it. And we explain it whether through linear thinking or we through known variables or unknown variables. Those people who they look at a known system and they're like, "No, man, this has to have unknown variables." They're the creative people. Those people who look at a system and they're like, "We just have to like organize the known variables." Okay, like to me, you don't understand. There needs to be another thing. Like right now, you have school, and you have like uh, children, the younger generations, right? And the younger generations go to school, and after they go to school, then they go to work. Okay, so you kind of like train them, and then you kind of like equip them. You equip them, and you send them into the battlefield. But now the issue is that the training is incomplete. And what we're going to see is that the whole institution of the educational system to become privatized. That means there people in the future are going to be like, yo, do I need to go into a classroom with like a bunch of other people and listen to someone explain something only in their own way, hoping that I will understand what they're saying? Or should I just have an AI like Tony Stark, have my own personal Jarvis, okay? And Jarvis answers all the questions I have. You understand? You don't understand, guys, what age you're living in. You're living at an age where it is the easiest time in history to uncover your blind spots. But if you try to act like a hunter or like a warrior, and you actually see, like, playfully imagine all the problems that human beings and the species has as giants. Okay, I have this ability, I shouldn't say ability, but I envision certain situations in my life, like I'm someone who also, like me and my twin brother, I have a twin brother. When you have a twin brother, when you're young, you're used to brawling all the time. Okay, so in the educational system, there was no, what do I call it, there was no, I saw, I've seen bullying, but when it comes to me, I've been too vicious to just be bullied. You know, in the sense of, how do I say it? There was from experiencing moments in my youth where friends of mine would run and say your brother is in a fight, to experiencing moments where my brother and this other kid were fighting, like they were like trash talking, and the other kid could not trash talk my brother's mother because I was standing there. Okay, like, well, couldn't trash talk our, and in some sense my brother would trash talk the kid's mother, and I would look at my brother and I'd say, like, don't trash talk the mother. You know what I mean? And so what I'm trying to say is that it depends on how you were raised. If you were raised with a bit of wilderness, I was still raised in a generation that climbed trees and that ignored pain because it wasn't cool. You know what I mean? Like it's fascinating how many generations of men, have been developed, have ignored their pain and suffering by the fact that it's uncool to do it. And so, culture is very profound. How human beings behave at all in any way. So, anyways, I haven't had the luxury of being like physically bullied, but there's moments in my life where I imagine enemies to myself. Like you don't understand how many times in my mind my ordered version has fought my chaotic version. Someone who trains myself through self-deception. Do you understand? That means I have a mind. I shouldn't say it like this. We all have a mind like this, but we're humans. But in my mind, I have defeated myself in so many ways. I'm not kidding. There's times I've made mistakes, and people are like, "Why aren't you angry?" And I'm like, in the outer realms, my anger is nobody deserves to see my anger. Nobody deserves really to see too much of my emotions in the outer realms. You know, but in the inner realms, I have cried, I have shouted at volumes incomprehensible in front of my eyes. You know, I have, in some sense, ushered earthquakes. There was a time I made a mistake, and in my mind, that self I was seeing, I was like, break its world. Like, literally, it went through an earthquake. You know, see, in its life, you're not allowed to hit others, but are you allowed to hit yourself? Imagine we see someone in public hitting themselves. Do we go stop that, or are they allowed to hit themselves? You know what I mean? In the same way, in my mind, I have I have seen my defeat, but there came a moment where this was one of my most fascinating views, where I was like, how is it gonna end? That means that what death means is that you're gonna look at this world one last time. And my question is always, what fascinates me is what destiny, what, how am I gonna look at this world before I leave it? What will be the final stare of meaning, the final glimpse of meaning before, you know, whether like Madara Uchiha in Naruto, I just suddenly see darkness and I fade, or in some sense, it's the opposite. That if in this life, it's as if I go into a building and I see that there is more than one room, then how can I treat that this world is just one room? You see, a religious person is someone who is living in a world where there is the most advanced alive. That means it's not about being a godless self, or a godful self, God-filled self. You know, it's like the philosophical implications of a self believing in God, or a self not believing in God, and the philosophical implications of a world where there is God and there isn't. They are different arguments. That means a person can believe there is a God, okay, but do you know what I mean? It could just be privately in their mind. And then there are those, I'm in this group category, where I believe the higher power is here. It's always been here. That the world was not a school for spiritual people. The world is a house party. And when we realize it's not our house, we become fascinated by its host. And as simulated beings seek the one and only original singularity beyond reality. You know, many scholars, many human beings, just many creative people, they've noticed that something, it seems like, sure, from one view, it's like something is The life force is pushing things to a certain state. But from another angle, it's like the life, everything in life is being attracted to its finale. It's like everything existence is walking towards a door, or it has only, it's being pulled towards that door. We are being pushed towards truth, or we are being pulled towards truth. Religious people are being pulled towards truth. But people who believe that the world is the final destination, they are pushing truth. You see, it's all about where you accept you are. I'll give you an example. Imagine a giant is attacking like skyscrapers, and there's a group of people who are not scared. They're not worried or concerned. And they're interviewed and they're like, why aren't you guys concerned? The giant is destroying the city. And they're like, because we don't believe in giants. Because we don't believe in giants. And then they're like, excuse me, the giant is destroying the skyscraper in front of you. You know? And they're like, no, we don't believe in giants. And you look at that group of people and you're like, how sad. You're trying to feel safe by ignoring truth. How weak. Like, that's not the best strategy. The best strategy is to acknowledging the giant's existence. In the same way, if a giant was standing beside you, that which is beyond size is witnessing it all. In the same way, it's as if it's like we are characters in a novel in the mind of an author that is incomprehensible to the world. That means if I imagine a world and I imagine a character in it right now, that I am so incomprehensible and beyond that what that character in my imagination can, you know, wonder about. So, anyways, how do we get to a world of geniuses? Well, first we got to wonder about it, and then we got to wonder about it that geniuses are connecting worlds that have never been connected before. And at the same time, they cannot be geniuses if they're not aware of the new world that can connect to arise new meaning. These new worlds are new angles of perception. An initiative is an effort, and it's like we're like just like how there's bees and there's the beehive, okay, in the same way, and they have a queen, okay, that they're all like centering their values and life, their behaviorology around. In the same way, human beings are actually, um, there our queen is humanity in the future. Do you understand? And we, like bees, are just constantly collecting data and experiential, expanding the domains of our experiential awareness. And the whole point of it is that you take something that is efficient behind your eyes and you, in some sense, uh, present it in front of your eyes. And that is truly genius, which means it's pretty much understanding that you don't know your value because you don't know what you could do, but at the same time what you could do is could either be is either going to be an efficient contribution to humanity or an inefficient one. And I'm saying, imagine how incredible it would be that we're in a world where there is no longer fools, there are just levels of genius. In my talks earlier, I would speak about an educational system that was not, in some sense, it's not like we made the educational system less like the military. It's that educational systems all over the world were an advanced barracks for not soldiers, for explorers. In the future, the educational system is going to acknowledge every human being as an explorer, and it's going to have a ranking system. You know, just like this video game, I'll give you an example. There's this video game I play sometimes called League of Legends. I'm a Xerath mid main pretty much. And in this game, I'm familiar with all characters, but this is my go to. And in this game, After you play a character, you cultivate expertise, you cultivate experience, and then you get mastery levels. So in this game, at first they gave mastery levels that was up to level 7. So the max mastery you'd reach, the cap of it was level 7, and then after that you couldn't. But then they got smarter, the video game developers, and they made this massive online video game in a way where your mastery was endless. That means you'd become a rare legend in the game based on your mastery. That means it wasn't capped at 7. It just can't. It was an ever growing number. You know. In the same way, in the future, the educational system are just going to be explorers, and they get ranks in accordance to the values of the advanced humanity. The era of the advanced humanity will arise. Advanced human beings will wake up with incredible laughter at inefficiency that never was unnecessary. Do you understand? That means like, don't think an advanced civilization is not going to be funny. It's going to be so funny in the sense that we're going to realize all the efficient and smarter things we could have done this whole time. Behind our eyes, in front of our eyes, we can't teleport or time travel into the future, but behind our eyes, you can notice the future come. A world of geniuses would be a world that is not judging itself by the past, by its past inefficiency. It is reshaping itself, revaluing itself in accordance to how advanced the future can be. And we as human beings in 2025, we go as far advanced as we can. So when the future generations open their eyes, they become shocked that it's like, if my ancestors went as far as they can, then we must go as far as we can. And it's not about generations just passing the torch. It is like flying as far as you can, finding a new sky, and then passing down the torch. And it's as if you owe future generations. Your eyes will see what we cannot, but we will give you what we could see. The greatness of humanity in the which you have been given a performance of a lifetime to be a part of. You don't feel it now. The only way I can talk about it is because in my inner realms, I'm a visual thinker, so I've visually seen how it would feel behind my eyes an advanced civilization. And what you're missing now in your emotions of it is that you're missing a massive collective honor. You right now are not just valued based on you alone and the story you give yourself or society gives you. You have a value to humanity itself. Go look in the mirror and ask yourself why you have been designed as a crew member of Spaceship Earth. There are moments where a person must ask themselves, why does the world speak to me through a reality, through a world? What is existence trying to tell itself that it hasn't noticed? What is freedom beyond the ignorance of, shaped luxury? That means, like, do you know, it's as if like, do you know how suffering makes a species weak? Do you know identifying with suffering is one of is an incredible tactical disadvantage for the human species? Do you know that means, if imagine extraterrestrials in a hypothetical futuristic setting want to invade Earth, and they'll be like, excuse me, these Earthlings have advanced weapons, they have logic, but they're emotional beings, and they're all suffering, and nobody feels perfect. All I have to do is just simulate a hallucination of perfection for them. Do you know? And they're going to, in some sense, just be ignorant of their reality because they seek comfort before truth, which is like which is self-defeating. So, so a species just has to see your suffering, and when it sees your suffering, and excuse me, like an like an ignorant, evil extraterrestrial species just needs to see that you just want emotional satisfaction as a human being, because we're also emotionally unfulfilled all the time, because civilization is just it is just feeding a certain hunger of our intelligence. It's not completely satisfying humanity. So because yourself is incomplete, and someone can come and, like, like make artificially complete it for you. That's why I'm trying to tell you, you need to train yourself as awareness to reality, so you don't get gobbled up by reality. That's a ridiculous phrasing. You don't get you don't get devoured by ignorance. Do you understand? That means before you are a victim, there's always this eerie moment where you see reality's ignorance. You have to scan reality. Like, you got to learn from sparrows. If you see a sparrow land on a tree, I've given so many talks in nature that I'll tell you, I've observed nature at, like, National Geographic level. I've legit talked in front of nature. I don't know, like, how many human beings have given a podcast to, like, a forest, you know? But if you look at a sparrow, the sparrow lands on the tree and its head, like an advanced surveillance camera, is scanning every angle. It's like a sparrow lands on a tree and it's like trying to fulfill its 360 view instantly. Like, it's amazing. In the same way, we human beings are like, we don't have to move our necks like sparrows, but we become aware of reality. And let me tell you, just like how there is no good drivers who are not confident, that means if you're not confident, you should never drive a vehicle or anything. Do you know? Only if you're confident because you've seen yourself do it so many times. Do you know? I've driven at some point that the edge of my car is like the edge of my body. I can feel the edge of it. And I think many drivers do. Even truck drivers have way more advanced experience of this than me. Do you know? But I'm saying, you drive the vehicle because you trust your own ability. You why don't you think about walking? You trust your ability. But when a baby is walking, the parents are like, okay, take one step, take another step, good job. Do you understand? They need that whole language to come and acquaint the child with the reality of the activity. But the activities that are real for you, you don't think about them. So if you notice, you don't think about walking. You don't think about, like, okay, I gotta move the spoon into my mouth now when I'm eating, like, drinking soup. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is that you don't think about stuff that you are confident about. So if you're thinking about something, you're most likely not that confident about it. But ultimately, the confidence is tied down to an outcome of reality. In the same way, Sun Tzu in The Art of War says, if two warriors are about to go in an arena and duel and fight, the warrior who has already seen in their mind, like a film, how they're going to defeat the other warrior before stepping out. Like, that means the warrior that has seen their victory before stepping on the battlefield is the winner. Okay. Now, what happens if both of them have seen their victory? That's when you see the blind spots of the other. Because in a game, it's just about what you notice. Anyways, we're in a world. One point I didn't, something I wanted to say, maybe I didn't say just to say it. In the same way, Abraham and went and told his prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, went and told his forefathers, like, don't just accept one ideological settings to your reality, and realize that what's moving it is beyond it, and man is not always in the driver's seat of what happens. You see, there is humility, which is cultural humility, like, respecting an elder person, and then there is, I would say, like an inner realm humility, where you become humble in the sense of there's an existential humility. Okay. Where you're humble enough, and it's kind of like you give yourself an ability to allow anything you valued to also start off from neutrality. So if you don't like someone, for example, imagine you out of all the people you know, there's some people you like and some people you dislike. It's like being like, wait a minute, let me just reset everything to neutrality, and based on the actions of this person, revalue them. You understand? So I'm saying having an ability to pretty much see something as negative, positive, neutral, past, neutral, future, present, future. Do you understand? Good, neutral, evil. Do you know what I mean? Smart, neutral, stupid. Okay. And what is it? You're neutral. You're an awareness to phenomena, to your own self, and phenomena is the term we use to external stuff happening. As you, noumenon is what the term we use to subjective stuff, internal stuff happening to you. Like that means, yo, look at that phenomena. So if somebody wants to point to the inner realms, according to Immanuel Kant, you say, yo, look at that noumena. That means, like, in the same way you're like, yo, man, look at what thoughts that person has, or look at that person's idea. It's like another way of saying, look at that noumenon, look at how that organism has simulated, or in some sense is valuing an event behind their eyes that is the life force moving their life form. But what you are is an awareness to how you're being a noun and a verb at the same time, which means we can't use a noun to define you only, and we can't use a verb to define you only, because the awareness to the noun is not a noun, and the awareness to the verb is not a noun, is not a verb, and the awareness, excuse me, the awareness to the noun and the verb is an unknown. We can't give a, we can't measure something, we can't measure the box by only what's inside it. We can't define the box based on that. So it's kind of like we're a bunch of simulated beings in a simulated system, okay? And there is simulated hierarchy, okay? But in some sense, we have to, it's like an actor in the middle of an endless looping film being like, yo, what am I doing being an actor right now? What is actually going on? And you discover that the film set wasn't the studio. Sometimes if you don't act properly in this life, it's like the director, which you can't see, which is offset, you only see what's on set, okay? It's like the director tells you, buddy, you got to keep playing your part, okay? Because it's the value to our existence. It doesn't just have a value to us, it also has a value to our creator, the system admin. If you read the Quran, I treat it as source code. I treat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the system admin. I treat the angels and shaitan as moderators. Okay? And the Holy Quran is pretty much telling you, you have been simulated as a member in a system, as a user in a system, and the mods are trying to make you worship, just think that truth is the simulation. But the next level thing that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, did, and which Abraham started, which was, it's like what Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, finished, was what Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, started. Okay, and it was this realization that it's the moderators are ignorance. So when the Prophet, peace be upon him, came and said, stop working with the moderators of the simulation, go directly to the system admin, that was when magic, spirituality, and channeling with other beings all got pushed to the old world. Even though in modern times, and I dislike this, but in the new age, there has been the archaic revival of channeling, but they think they're channeling aliens. They don't think they're channeling jinn anymore, you know? But in some sense, it's very important to realize that being a human soul has a very unique, sacred value to its creator. So that means magic and moderating and having control and manipulating the simulation all became lesser games compared to this incredible idea of, hey, you're alive temporarily, try to notice the higher power. In the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I created mankind and jinn kind for the sole purpose of worshiping me, which means, and it says specifically that I created mankind, as the human, as a vicegerent, okay, as a khalifa of the divine attributes on earth. What that means is, from, even though no human being can say this, because we cannot humanize God, but it's like, it appears like, okay, that as if the system admin created us, created a creation, so the creation can have a more advanced relationship with the system admin. So the creation could be conscious of the true value of the system admin. That means, imagine there's only God, nothing there. God is ultimately being its power. The higher power is being the highest power. But the higher power, highest power is being the highest power, but it creates a lower power. Why? So the lower power, in its relationship with the higher power, becomes the manifestation of the divine attributes of the higher power, which means that technically, from one angle, there is no wrong angles. It's God's will. But we can't know this. So what I'm saying is pretty much this: that imagine, I'm saying this as a metaphor. Imagine God is the owner of the company, the world is the company, the mods are the managers, okay, and you are an employee. Now, what Islam is saying is, don't go to the managers in the company. Go directly to the owner of the company, who's saying anybody, any employee in the company can come and talk to the owner at any time. That's what what Islam is. You can go directly to the owner. You should only praise, and what is only worthy of praise is that which is not, is beyond your imagination. So Islam worships a God beyond the imagination. But if you're a Christian, for example, you're treating a manager as God. So you believe that a manager of God is like God's son, and it's like you're. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, this is all just for an analytical view. I'm just trying to see the geometry of the ideas here, theologically. But it's kind of like, imagine there's an owner of a company, the boss, okay, and the boss has a son, and the son is one of the managers. And imagine some employees say, you need to only go to the boss's son, okay, and the boss's son will save you from like getting fired, okay, and not going to heaven, okay, not getting promoted, right? But then there's the idea of those who go directly, and there's an employee who's like the manager. There isn't just the boss's son as a manager. There is so many other managers, and imagine one manager is giving an employee the hard time. So the employee's like, what am I doing? Talking to this manager, I'm going to go speak to the system admin. So the employee goes to the owner and sits down in that room with the owner. And guess what people, when they pray, they're doing? Okay. So they sit there in that moment with the owner, okay, and they say, hey, owner, you've hired me in this company, which is like saying, God, you've created me. And I have come to the greatest administrative power in this enterprise, which is God. And it's like saying to God, saying to the owner of the company as an employee, hey, some of your managers are mistreating your employees. And the owner looks at you and says, that's exactly why, I set one manager to mistreat the employees, so I'd see which employees are smart enough to come and talk to the owner, which employees are serious about their work to come and talk to the owner. And what tends to happen in a company is, I remember this, that somebody actually said this to me. I have this hilarious story, guys. There was a time where I just transferred to York University for a little bit when I was younger in my schooling days. And there was a job fair in York University, in like those halls they have. I believe it was in in not the Schulich building, but behind the Schulich building. Okay, and there was this long hallway there. Okay, and there was this guy from an investment banking firm with a suit on, right? And there was a lineup of like PhD students with suits, resumes in hand, right? All in the lineup, and they're waiting, and the guy in the suit, nobody's talking to him. He's waiting at the head of the line, and all these people with suits, for the job fair, were there waiting in line, and nobody's talking to the guy. And I was with t-shirt and jeans, and I just go and talk to the guys. All the people, like the first person at the line wasn't smart enough to talk to the guy. Do you know what I mean? Right. So, anyways, I go and I start talking to the guy, and I just ask him a question, and I say, what's the most important thing that all these guys who've lined up to, like, you want to recruit, like, that you would want them to know, like something in these lines. And he told me, he just for a second smiled, right? And he told me, what I want. I want to hire someone who knows what my boss wants from me. That means all your managers want someone who knows what their boss wants from them to work for them. Okay? And I remember this guy suddenly realizes he's having this long conversation, and then I get his contact info, and then eventually I reach this point where he's telling me to go take this kind of like investor course. But anyways, life leads me differently. But I'm trying to say, like, it was, how do I say it? It was like they were all waiting, and the opportunity was there. And it was this idea that you want the employee, the manager, the system admins, like, listen, employee, okay, in this world, you're going to have different kind of managers, but the whole point is you figure out where the important decisions come from. That means you got to be smarter than your managers to be able to, actually, let them experience, you know, it. How do I say it? You got to, it's like a win-win mentality is the fastest approach to climbing the ladder. But I'm trying to tell you this, that it's all about reality insight. The system admin is looking at the system, at the owner of the company has a view of the company that you in no way do. The moderators, the managers have an insight and knowledge of the company, of the system that you don't know. Do you know? But you as an employee have a certain amount of knowledge, and you're tasked with a role in the company. Now, if you reach a point where you suddenly see you can do way more, that means all people's jobs are is problem solving. Do you understand? And what the educational system is trying to do is make you into good problem solvers, but they don't know how. And they're actually making you solve problems in the past to think that you're good at solving problems in the future. But to truly solve problems in the future, you have to wonder about how the reality of the future will be completely different from the reality of now. So it's like having an ability to see beyond your ego code and beyond the ego code of the species. And I'm telling you, you have no time to be good and evil to people. You have to immediately, as a human being in this world, advance yourself beyond your inner realms and march. You have to march towards tackling the bigger problems of humanity. That means if I ask you right now as a person, what's the biggest problem in your life? If it's a problem for yourself, shame on you. How have you not gone to a point where you're wondering about the problems of the species yet? And you're like, what problems of the species? I would be like climate crisis, an epistemic entropy crisis, an inability to, in some sense, advance technology to realize after the industrial revolution, we haven't been horizontally evolving, we've just been vertically evolving. What's the point of our minds moving faster than our bodies? What's the danger of our minds no longer requiring bodies because they prefer to move faster? What is in some sense preordained in this system? And once you see that the bigger problems are like giants, even though you want to be like Legolas in Lord of the Rings and go like, take down that mammoth on your own, you're going to begin to see no, There is a reason you've been given a specific DNA, and 8 billion other people have been given a specific DNA. And in a micro manner, we're all like superheroes because we all have abilities and ways to look at the world that nobody else does. So technically, from one angle, we are in a world of geniuses because everybody has a DNA that is different than others. Everybody has access to a perception and a way to connect worlds and reality that nobody else does. And what I've realized is that it's like it's no longer like, guru, come and say loving world so I can love myself. It's like, excuse me, if you want to go be AFK, you're probably going to have to do it in one of the bunkers that all the people who are not AFK provide for you. Dear humanity, there is no point of being spiritual if you don't care for the advancement of civilization. Spirituality that does not care for the advancement of self, advancement of, excuse me, that does, spirituality that only cares for the advancement of self, but not the advancement of a species. That means if you're just trying to become a more able and powerful being and not making the system more able and powerful, it's like, oh my God, man, you entered do you know what I mean? It's like you entered a concert but you had earplugs on. You entered a world yet you didn't advance it. What's the point of being in a system? Are we here like as a transaction, just like you go to the store, you buy, like, I don't know, you buy, um let's say you buy iced coffee. Let's say you buy coffee packets, and as you drink it you cry. No, I'm joking. It's like you go to the store, you buy a bottle of water, you come back, okay, a bottle of juice, and you come back, okay. It's like, yo, man, how advanced was that interaction? You went somewhere, you got something for yourself, you left it. It was that enough? Is that what kind of life we want to live on Earth? Or could it be that you attended a historic moment? You attended that moment where human beings were realizing that if they don't obsess on themselves, they begin to see the values the world has. An advanced civilization will be the conclusion of any externalized entity because we're intelligent, because we can see probabilities to the future in our inner realms behind our eyes before we live in the outer realms. It's kind of like we treat ourselves as a physical being, but the way we're moving and happening, the way we're being intelligent is not just physical. And it is time to build an advanced civilization. So the last thing I want you to wonder about is truly a, a, a world of geniuses would build a genius world. A world of advanced beings would build an advanced world. We can't live in advanced civilizations in front of our eyes now, but behind our eyes we can. Anyways, thank you for listening, and I think this was an interesting episode. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Auzubillah shaitan rajim. May God protect us from the cursed one and unnecessary ignorance. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Rabbi Gfirli, my Lord, forgive me. My Lord, forgive us, forgive your creation for all the sins they're conscious and unconscious of. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. May God guide us to the direct path. May the most advanced guide humanity towards the most advanced humanity. You cannot have the greatest being of all of all being create something and not expect the most advanced potential. We were designed by the most advanced, and that means we have the most advanced potential. So it's like trying to see our greatness before we leave the world room. Anyways, thank you for listening. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.